Good afternoon.
My name is Richard Thompson. I'm the President and Chief Counsel of the Thomas More Law Center, a national public interest law firm that defends the religious liberty of Christians, time-honored family values, and the sanctity of human life.
Thank God for what you do.
Our namesake, Thomas More, as he refused to compromise his conscience, went up to the scaffolding and said, "I die the king's good servant, but God's first." And that's what our cry should be today.
That's right.
Clark Durant mentioned some words from the Declaration of Independence, which is our birth certificate. And he said, our liberties are unalienable rights that have been granted to us by God. That he meant the Creator, it was God. It was a Judeo-Christian God. It was a God that created us in His image. Yeah. These were a gift from God. They were not a gift from the government. And Thomas Jefferson said, "Can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis, a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are the gift of God?" It was the gift of God, and thereafter man constituted government. Amen. Not the other way around. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to give you a little history. You know, we almost didn't get our Constitution. Even after the Founding Fathers left Philadelphia and went to the people and said, "We want you to ratify it," the people said, "You don't have any Bill of Rights. How are we going to protect ourselves from ambitious politicians who take the Constitution and turn it on its head?"
Vote them out!
Yeah. Although Thomas Jefferson didn't attend that Constitutional Convention, he sent a letter to Madison, and he called the omission of a Bill of Rights a major mistake. He said, "A Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government on earth." End quote. Its value, in Madison's view, was in part educational, in part as a vehicle that might be used to rally people against a future oppressive government.
Yeah!
How right he was.
Yeah!
So the Bill of Rights were ratified in 1791 after the Constitution was ratified. And the provision of the Bill of Rights that gives us that right of conscience is, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, and then the crucial phrase, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Thomas Jefferson stated in 1809, quote, "No provision in our Constitution ought to be dearer to man than that which protects the rights of conscience against the enterprises of the civil authority." End quote. That's why it's a First Amendment issue that we have today. Now I want to tell you what the Catholic bishops said over 100 years ago. This was the Catholic bishops saying about America's founding at their third plenary council in 1893. Quote, "We consider the establishment of our nation's independence, the shaping of its liberties and laws as a work of special providence. And if ever the glorious fabric is subverted or impaired, it will be by men forgetful of the sacrifices of the heroes that reared it, the virtues that cemented it, and the principles on which it rests." End quote. This was over 100 years ago, and I can tell you we are gathered here today to proclaim that we have not forgotten the sacrifices of the men from the Valley Forge to Lexington Green, to World War I, to World War II, to the Korean War, to the Vietnam War, to Iraq and Afghanistan, men bleeding and sacrificing their lives so that we could enjoy the First Amendment rights that we have in the United States.
Yeah!
Now, the Department of Health and Human Services mandates that employers pay for health insurance for their employees that cover sterilization, contraceptions, and the morning after pills that may cause abortions. Now, they provided a narrow exception for a religious institution that basically meant if you worked within the four walls of a church, you were exempt. But every other religiously associated institution, whether they be Catholic hospitals, universities, schools, and other charitable institutions, were not covered by that exemption. So accordingly, we are here today to demand that the federal government rescind the HHS mandate because it substantially interferes with the First Amendment to the United States Constitution that limits the activity of government from substantially interfering with our First Amendment rights. There's another statute. It's a statute. It is not an amendment to the Constitution, but that's the 1993 Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is also applicable. That was enacted by Congress, unanimously by the House of Representatives, and almost unanimously by the Senate. It was signed into law by President Clinton. And that law says government shall not substantially burden a person's exercise of religion, even if the burden results from a rule of general applicability, unless it demonstrates that the application of the burden to the person is, one, in furtherance of a compelling governmental interest, and two, is the least restrictive means of furthering that compelling government interest. That's the second law that is applicable to what is going on today in the United States. In their preamble to that bill, the Congress said, quote, "The framers of the Constitution, recognizing free exercise of religion as an unalienable right, secured its protection in the First Amendment to the Constitution." And then it went on to say that this 1993 law purpose was, quote, "to provide a claim or defense to persons whose religious exercise is substantially burdened by the government." And so this mandate, the HHS mandate, forces people of religion, sincerely held religious beliefs that oppose contraception or abortifacients or sterilization, to make a choice. They can violate their religious beliefs and pay for the coverage. They can maintain their religious beliefs and pay $2,000 per employee, in some cases, in some employment, running into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or thirdly, they can go out of business. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a substantial burden. Now, amen. I want to tell you all here, amen. It doesn't matter what you claim to believe if you're unwilling to act on your belief. And that's important. And by your appearance here today, you are showing, you're manifesting your willingness to act on your beliefs. This is a sad irony that I want to mention, you know. A sad irony I want to mention. Thousands of American soldiers are shedding their blood, sacrificing their lives to establish a constitution, republic in Afghanistan and Iraq, when here our own government is tearing up our Constitution. Most of those soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq are Christian. Many of them are Catholic. Washington doesn't realize that Christians were born for combat.
Yeah!
They have underestimated Christians. Christ said, "I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." When Christ saw the money changers in the temple, he did not keep quiet. He did not turn away in the presence of wrong to keep the peace. He broke the peace by driving them out. he armed himself with a scourge of cords and drove them out. So peace is not our goal. Righteousness is our goal.
Great job! Yeah! Yeah! You got it, brother.
If you want peace, all you have to do is keep quiet. All you have to do is leave this square. But C.S. Lewis, that great author and scholar, warned, there comes a time when Christians must show they disagree. There comes a time when Christians must show their Christian colors. We cannot remain silent or concede everything away. We need to obey God, even if that brings us in conflict with civil authority. If civil laws clearly conflict with divine law, it is our duty to resist.
Yeah!
And as Dante said, the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in time of great moral crisis maintain their neutrality.
Yeah!